Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 24 playthrough of the Buffalo Wings. We are in early August of the 2035 season, and our Wings stand with a 78-34 record, the best record in baseball by 9 games over the Seattle Mariners, or actually, it's 9 games over the Las Vegas Athletics. Seattle Mariners aren't too far behind them, but the A's are the closest team to us now. But 9 games better than the A's for the best record in baseball, and we are up 20 games on the Marlins at this point in the National League East. As we head into the final 2 months of the season, a lot of interesting storylines to follow. First, can we top the 112 wins that we had a year ago, when the Buffalo Wings, who won their first world championship last season, also compiled the second most wins in baseball history in the regular season of a team that went on to win the World Series championship. Only the 1998 Yankees, with 114 wins, won more regular season games than the Wings, while also winning a title. With the winning percentage we have at this point of .696, we are on target to be a 112 to 113 win team. So one storyline will be, can we do even better than we did a year ago, and perhaps chase that 114 win Yankees team, or even better, the 116 win Cubs and Mariners teams that didn't go on to win World Series titles. In addition to chasing a potentially historic number of wins over these final 7 to 8 weeks of the season, can we hold off the Marlins with a 20-game lead? I think that is not a question. Can we hold off the A's and perhaps the Mariners and the Cubs for the best record in baseball and home field advantage throughout the playoffs? I think we're in really good shape to do that, so we'll be following our progress on those two fronts, but tend to think we will end up with the best record in baseball, and we will win the National League East. But we're also chasing some pretty interesting personal goals. Deshaun Seifu, who's hitting .314 on this season, looking to hit over .300 for a third consecutive season, and looking to lead the National League in stolen bases for an 8th consecutive year. And he's on pace to lead the majors in stolen bases right now. And Shamar Jenneret leads the majors in ribbies. He's third in the National League in home runs, and he's leading the National League with a .321 batting average. Can Jenneret chase a potential triple crown down the stretch? Can he win a batting title, or will perhaps Seifu pass him and win the first batting title of his career? And can Jenneret end up becoming the second player in Major League history to win a Most Valuable Player award in both leagues? He was the AL MVP a couple of years ago with the Angels, or was it the Rangers? Got a bad memory. The Rangers, before we signed him as a free agent, and he led us to a World Series championship last year. So some interesting personal storylines, some interesting team storylines that we'll be following over these last couple months of the season. But the most critical storyline to follow is going to be the health of this team, and hopefully ensuring that we are as healthy when the playoffs begin as we are right now. And that's not going to be easy to do because we have nobody on the IL at the major league level. If we can get to the beginning of October and the end of the regular season and be able to say the same thing, that nobody on our major league roster is on the injured list, then in my view, these last 2 months of the season will be a success, regardless of whether we end up with 91, 101, 111, or 121 wins when all is said and done. And we've made it to September roster expansion. The Wings at 93-41, still kind of right on target for a 112 win season. So we've got the potential to certainly do better than that if we finish up strong. The lead in the division is now 25.5 games. The second place Marlins are just one game over 500. On September 1st, our magic number is already down to 3. The A's and the Mariners tied for the second best record in baseball. They are also tied for the lead in the AL West, and looks like those teams are both 12 games behind us in the standings for the best record in baseball. So feeling pretty confident now that we will have home field advantage for as long as our Buffalo Wings are alive in the playoffs. Still probably need to go out and win about 10 more games to ensure that. Seifu has overtaken Jenneret at this point for the National League batting title. Looks like it will likely be one of those two, but Juan Arcega of the Marlins with his 80 contact and his 80 power certainly probably will have something to say about the... Actually, he doesn't really have 80 contact and 80 power. I've been looking at some minor league stuff, so that was relative to single A ball. Arciaga, though, still has 60 contact, so he could get in the race, but hopefully Seifu and Jenneret will end up finishing first and second in some order. Jenneret tied for second in the NL in home runs, just one behind Jorge Eragui, and he's up 17 runs batted in on Jijam Alvarez to lead the league in ribbies. Seifu leading in steals, teammate Bobby Bolig actually third, Jenneret leading in OPS. Seifu is third in the league in batter WAR, and has an outside chance of leading the league if he can get by Arcega and Max Clark with a big September. Looking at the pitching stats, Juan Estrada, 12-4 on the season with a 2.74 ERA, second best in the league. Alexis Barajas, 13-6, third most wins in the league with a 3.04 ERA. So things are going pretty well for our Buffalo Wings so far. Nobody on the IL yet, knock on wood. And we just need to figure out who our September call-ups are going to be this year. And thinking about our 2 September call-up spots, we've basically got 3 pretty obvious players to consider. We're going to bring up the pitcher Yohani Varejo, who only got sent down when we made an acquisition at the trade deadline and was really only sent down because we still had options with him. He's been excellent in Albany, a 2-0 record, 10 saves, 18 strikeouts in 14 1/3 innings in a 1.29 ERA. He still could conceivably play a role for us in the playoffs. So Varejo's going to come back. And then the other decision is just whether we bring Tyreek Hardage or Arturo Flores back up. The 23-year-old Flores didn't have much to prove in AAA after hitting .346 with a homer and 2 doubles and 26 at-bats last year there, after culminating a incredible offensive season when he combined for 61 home runs across 4 levels of the organization, but got caught up in a numbers game this year, and we figured we'd give him a full year of seasoning. All he's done is hit .294 with 45 homers and 119 ribbies, hit .300 in his 10 at-bats at the major league level. Would certainly be a big right-handed bat, potentially off of our bench. And if we bring him up, we would likely start him against left-handed pitching. The other option is Tyreek Hardage, who also kind of got caught in a numbers game this year. He was pretty much our regular center fielder a year ago when he started 136 games, hit .244, 17 homers, 14 steals, hit .241 in 174 at-bats this year at the major league level, only 2 homers, but he's hit .323 with 18 homers in 303 at-bats, putting up a 144 WRC plus in AAA Albany for us. At this point, I think we're going to bring up Flores with the fact that we do have James Wood and Tim Gaglia and Gaglia is excellent defensively, like Hardage. I don't think we need Hardage as much. They're both right-handed hitters, and I think Flores is a better bat. So we'll bring him up before getting him out of force starting him at DH, because we don't want to get Mr. Jenneret out of the lineup as we are trying to win him, or at least make him as competitive as possible in a race for the Triple Crown and a potential MVP award. So I guess I said we weren't going to do that first, but we did end up taking Flores out of forcing him to the DH spot before getting into these other two things I was going to mention. Check in on how James Wood is doing. Batting average is still only .218. Does have 15 homers and 312 at-bats, but has not been as successful offensively as we would have hoped. A bit below average offensively in terms of his WRC plus, 1.2 WAR on the season. Looking at his fielding stats in center field, and he is a below average center fielder in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency. So definitely a disappointing season from Mr. Wood. Jace Barofin, who we brought back, .311 batting average and 11 homers and 132 at-bats, has been playing primarily against left-handed pitching, even though he's a left-handed hitter. He's got pretty even splits between righties and lefties. Could end up losing some playing time now that Flores is up, depending on what we decide to do. But Barofin's been solid. Last guy I want to check in is our new closer, Chris Staten, who's been with us for a month. 13 games pitched, 0-1 record with 10 saves, 19 strikeouts in 15 innings, a 0.60 ERA. So he has been pretty effective for us, allowing just 6 hits in those 15 innings. 172 BABIP, so presumably he's gotten a bit lucky. That said, he has definitely stabilized the back end of our bullpen, and hard to imagine a situation where he is not our closer throughout the playoffs. And it's been a rough start to the month of September on the field for our Buffalo Wings, a 2-6 record. So we stand at 95-47 right now. Blip like that in the context of a 162 game season doesn't really mean much of anything. But in the context of a 162 game season, when you're trying to see if you can win 110, 112, 114 plus games, pretty significant. So that probably ends any chances of reaching the 112 wins that we did a season ago. That said, we are still up 21 games now on the Pirates in the NL East, and the A's still the second best team in baseball, and they're only 8 games behind us now. We've obviously already clinched the division, clinched a playoff spot, and pretty close to clinching home field advantage across the National League playoffs. But we still have a little bit of work to do to clinch the best record in baseball. Seifu Jenneret and now Max Clark, who we had thought about trying to trade for before the trade deadline, but unfortunately the Pirates wanted Seifu for him, and they also wanted us to take on his pretty expensive contract for another 3 seasons after this one, even though he's wrecked physically. He's in the batting race now with Seifu and Jenneret. They've both slowed down a little bit, so Seifu leading the league in hitting, Jenneret second, Jenneret third in home runs, 2 behind both Alvarez and Aragui, and he's up 15 in ribbies. Seifu going to lead the league in steals, Jenneret second in OPS. Neither of our players are among the top 3 in batter WAR anymore. Estrada leading the league in ERA, Barajas tied for second in wins, as we head into the final few weeks of this regular season, see if we can, most importantly, remain healthy, and then see if we can perhaps have a Triple Crown. If we don't have a Triple Crown winner, hopefully at least have someone who leads the league in batting average and pretty unlikely that we won't have someone leading the league in ribbies and stolen bases when all is said and done, and Jenneret still certainly in the mix to lead the league in OPS as well. And we did finally have an injury, relatively minor one. Wood going to be out 3 days with a broken nose. Given that his batting average has dropped to just 206, though, and he's barely above replacement level at this point, we are going to at least consider some different options for the playoffs. So we're going to place him on the IL for the next 10 days, and that will allow us to bring up Mr. Hardage as well. Get a little playing time for Hardage and Gaglia in center field. See if maybe one of them gets hot right before the playoffs. Gaglia and Hardage were our center fielders last year when we made the run to the World Series. Certainly will upgrade our defense by having those two always in center field rather than Wood. Not necessarily ready to completely throw in the towel on Mr. Wood as a starting center fielder. And even if he's not a starting center fielder for the playoffs, he still could be potentially a useful bat off our bench. But at this point in mid-September, batting just 206, when we've got a couple of young guys who are much better defensively and have been better than 206 hitters at the major league level, feel that we want to at least give Gaglia and Hardage a little more playing time over the next week and a half or so until Wood is ready to come off of the IL. Or more accurately, eligible to come off of the IL because he'll be healthy in 3 days. And we are down to the final 2 weeks of the regular season. Looks like we're completely in the National League East the rest of the way. We've got 4 at Montreal, then 3 at the Mets, and then we finish up with a 7-game homestand, 4 against the Marlins and 3 against the Braves. So 14 games left, 148 record for the Buffalo Wings at this point. Taking a look at the standings, up 21 on the Pirates. Obviously, we've already clinched the division. The A's at 89 and 59, still the second best team in baseball, although the Mariners, the Cubs, and even the Rangers, who have had some pretty hot streaks over the last month and a half, are not too far behind. We are up 11 games on the A's for the best record in baseball with those 14 to go. So feeling pretty good about our chances there. The batting race is really tight. Seifu leading right now, but only 4 points separate him, Clark, and Jenneret, who's in third. Jenneret still in third in homers, 3 behind Aragui and 2 behind Alvarez now. And looks like he'll definitely lead the league in ribbies. Seifu will definitely lead the league in steals. Jenneret is second in OPS at this point. Pitching-wise, Estrada competing to lead the league in ERA, and Barajas, still with 14 wins, is third in the NL. So with 2 weeks left, still have an outside chance at a Triple Crown. Have a really good chance that we're going to have a league leader in ribbies and stolen bases, and still could have someone lead in OPS. And we're probably the favorites to have someone win a batting title, although Seifu and Jenneret have both been slumping a bit in terms of where their batting averages have headed over the last several weeks. Not horribly, but definitely they were in the 320, 330 range not all that long ago, so they've certainly let Max Clark into the race for the NL batting title here in 2035. And we've got some good news and some bad news. The good news, Jenneret just had a 3-home-run game a couple days ago to help himself in the race for the Triple Crown. Juan Estrada strained back muscle, though. We are going to be very careful with him. We are going to probably bench him for the regular season, the rest of the regular season at this point. We're certainly going to give him a week. Don't want to push anything. We've got 14 pitchers on the Major League roster. The goal has always been to get to the playoffs with everyone healthy, so we are going to be very conservative with Mr. Estrada. He's got 166 and a third innings pitched in that 2.60 ERA, so if he doesn't pitch again, he'll likely win the ERA title. Barajas is now third. Jenneret, with that big game, would actually technically have a triple crown today if it was all over. He's tied for the batting title with his teammate Seifu at 309. He's tied with Alvarez and Aragui with 42 homers, and he's up 19 ribbies with 132 this year. So potentially some historic seasons here with about a week and a half to go. But we're going to be very conservative with Juan Estrada to hopefully ensure that our number 3 starter is healthy for the playoffs. 7 games left in the season now, a 104-51 record for Buffalo. So we have clinched the best record in baseball, home field advantage throughout the playoffs. All that's left to play for at this point is just individual honors. Seifu 1 point up on Jenneret for the batting title. Jenneret second, or actually technically third in the National League, 1 home run behind both Alvarez and Aragui, still leading the league in ribbies. Seifu still leading the league and the majors in stolen bases. Jenneret actually also leading the majors in ribbies. OPS Jenneret back on top in the league. Estrada looks like he's still hurt for another 4 games, so we've changed his benching to be another 4 days, so he'll probably get 1 start near the end of the year. Barajas, third in the National League with 15 wins at this point. We've actually set things up now with the injury to Estrada, so we're going to have a 6-man rotation over this last week or so of the season. Hopefully put as little stress as possible on all of the pitchers on our team. And we'll find out if we can keep this team healthy. And we'll also be checking in as this final week moves along to see whether Seifu can win his first batting title, whether Jenneret can win the elusive Triple Crown, or whether neither of those things will happen. And we'll go game by game and look at the box scores with you to see exactly how Seifu and Jenneret were doing. 6-5 win for Buffalo today. Joe Edwards walked it off with a solo home run. Seifu 0 for 3 to fall to 307. Jenneret 2 for 4, got the batting average up to 309, and a home run from Jenneret. In addition to the homer by Edwards, Heiner hit his 19th, and the young first baseman Flores hit his 3rd. So we'll take a look at things here, and Aragui hit 1 as well. So Jenneret tied for second with 43 homers, now still 1 behind Aragui, leading the league in ribbies, and he's got the batting title if the season were to end today, which it isn't. And a 7-1 victory for Buffalo in the second game against Miami. Jenneret 2 for 4 again to get the batting average up to 310. He did hit his 44th of the year. It looks like Seifu may have gotten a day off. Guess he was getting a little bit tired there. It's rare to see Seifu take a day off, but that apparently was the situation. So Jenneret now technically has a triple crown. There's a 3-way tie for the National League lead with 44 homers. He's 3 points up on Seifu in the batting race, and 16 ribbies up on Jajam Alvarez. So Jenneret, with 5 games left in the season, has a triple crown right now if the season were over. And another W today, a 4-1 win against Miami. Jenneret 1 for 4 with a ribby, but Seifu 2 for 2. No home runs for either. Jenneret's hit was a double. Seifu with a caught stealing. Barajas goes to 16-6. That should be his final start of the season, so he should be healthy and ready to go for the playoffs. Taking a look at the standings here, Jenneret, with 4 games to go, is still a Triple Crown winner. And we did have a loss in the final game of the series, scored just 1 run, so probably not going to be a homer for us there. Seifu 1 for 4, hitting .309. Jenneret 2 for 4 to get the batting average up to .311. The question is whether anybody else hit a home run today in that race to be the National League leader in home runs. And with 3 games to go, Jenneret is still a Triple Crown winner, 2 points up on Seifu in the batting race, tied for the league lead in home runs with Alvarez and Aragui, and still leading the league in ribbies. So 3 games left against a Atlanta team. It's 68-91, is the worst team in the National League, one of the worst teams in baseball. Seems like it could be an opportunity for both Jenneret and Seifu to get some hits. And we lost the first game against the Braves 8-7, but certainly could have some runs scored in that one. Seifu 3 for 5 to get the batting average to .311. Jenneret 1 for 3 to get the average for .311. No home run for him. So it'll be interesting to see. Seifu did get his 74th stolen base of the year in the loss. And we're still technically a Triple Crown winner with 2 games to go. Tied for the league lead in batting average, tied for the league lead in homers, leading the league in ribbies. What's going to happen these final 2 games of the season as both Jenneret and Seifu are chasing history here. And a 7-5 victory in the penultimate game of the year for Buffalo. Seifu 2 for 4 to get the batting average to .312. Jenneret 1 for 3 with a ribby, but the batting average falls to .311. So on the second to last day of the season, where Seifu gets a couple of stolen bases also, looks like Jenneret has fallen out of the Triple Crown position. We'll see whether any of the players he's competing with hit home runs. They're all still tied at 44. So he is a point behind his teammate Deshaun Seifu for the batting title, tied with 2 others in home runs, and he's going to lead the league in ribbies. Can Shamar Jenneret all he probably needs is 1 more hit than Seifu tomorrow to pass him for the batting title. And I will mention that in that 7-5 win, if you didn't notice, we did get to go against our former prospect, Ali Ostendorf, who's had a pretty rough year in Atlanta. 8-17 record, 5.20 ERA. Our concern with Ali was always going to be the number of walks. Walked 71 in 168 innings this year, which is actually a improvement from the pace he was at last year. But also gave up 192 hits, including 18 home runs. So a bit above replacement level, but certainly not the superstar pitcher we thought that Ostendorf might turn into when we picked him number 2 overall. It was probably close to a decade ago at this point. Let's see, 2027. So yeah, eight plus years ago that we picked him 2nd overall. He is now an established major leaguer. He's been up for the past 2 seasons with Atlanta, but he has not been a particularly effective pitcher thus far. But enough about Ali Ostendorf. 1 game remaining in the season, and we will find out shortly whether or not Shamar Jenneret can win a Triple Crown. And we lost the final game of the year 6-3 to Atlanta. Doesn't sound like we probably had a bunch of home runs, certainly. At most, we had 3. Let's see. Jenneret, 1 for 4 to hit 311. And it looks like Seifu did not play. That was not my call. Seifu should be in the lineup, but I think that means that Seifu has won the batting title. We'll have to see if Jenneret at least ended up tied for the league lead in homers in addition to leading the league in stolen bases. And he does not lead the league in homers. Alvarez hit one for Colorado on the final day of the season. So incredible seasons for both Seifu and Jenneret. Seifu wins his first batting title, hitting .312, leads the league in at-bats, runs, hits, triples, and stolen bases for an 8th consecutive year. Puts up a 6 WAR for a 2nd consecutive season. He was the National League runner-up in the MVP voting last year, and arguably had an even better season this year, although the thing we like most about Seifu is just the incredible consistency he's put up over the course of his career. Hits over .310 for a 3rd consecutive season, gets his career batting average up to .297, closing in on 1,700 career hits, closing in on 700 career steals here at the age of 31. He's led the league in at-bats 4 times, runs 3 times, hits 3 times, including each of the last 3 years, doubles once, triples now 5 times, stolen bases 8 times, and he now has a batting title on his resume as well. Though he failed in the quest for the Triple Crown, another excellent season for Shamar Jenneret. Leads the National League in ribbies for a 2nd consecutive year. Leads the league in OPS also this year. Jenneret has had 3 monster seasons in a row. Comes up a little short of the Triple Crown this year, but still has been the key cog that we felt we were missing in our lineup. Brought him on board last year. He led the league in ribbies and led us to a championship where he actually also won the World Series MVP award with a monster series against the Blue Jays. And even better this year with 5 more homers, 13 more ribbies, and a batting average that was 9 points higher than it was a year ago. So Jenneret and Seifu both had special seasons for us. 108 and 54 record for Buffalo when all was said and done. 23 up on the Marlins and 24 up on the Pirates in the NL East. And 8 games better than the Las Vegas A's for the best record in baseball. So our Wings are going to be having home field advantage for as long as we happen to be alive in the playoffs. And most importantly, that the team is pretty healthy. We actually put Wood on a rehab assignment down in AAA Albany, although at this point I don't think they're really playing any games, to keep Gagley and Hardage up, getting a little bit more experience. Going to have some real interesting decisions to make as to what this 26-man roster will look like for the playoffs. But the good news is that everyone who's going to be competing for that 26-man roster is healthy right now. So although we'll have some tough decisions to make, we are going to be making them from a position of strength as we try to win back-to-back World Series championships here in the 2035 playoffs. And as we get ready for the playoffs, the Buffalo Wings had the #1 offense in all of baseball this year, scoring 859 runs. And we had the #2 pitching staff in baseball, allowing 594 runs. But we were the best team in terms of runs scored and the best team in terms of runs against in the National League. Take a quick look. We know what happened with our big hitters. Take a look at the pitching leaders, and Strada, although the ERA did go up to 2.69 with his last start, finishes first in the National League in ERA, 13-4 record, 269 ERA. Alexis Barajas, second in the National League in both wins and ERA. Our co-ace goes 16-6 with a 2.85 ERA this year. While we're talking about our co-aces, we should check in on Sincere Shazier as well. 12-8 with a 4.05 ERA for Shazier, so he was not as sharp as either Barajas or Estrada this year. We actually let him pitch yesterday on the final day of the regular season with the wild card series coming up, and then Barajas set to go in game 1 of the playoffs. Shazier will still have plenty of rest to be our game 2 starter if we decide that is the route that we want to go. And we'll find out exactly what happens in the playoffs in our next episode. Until then, it's been a successful regular season. A little disappointing Jenneret didn't get the Triple Crown, but if someone was going to keep him from it, really happy to see Deshaun Seifu get the first batting title of his career at the age of 31 and continue to pursue, hopefully, a potential trip to Cooperstown in about 15 years. He's still got a lot more work to do, but he's had a very unique career as a former number 1 overall pick, and excited to see what he does over the balance of his career, although at this point we also only have him signed for 1 more year. So we'll be having some contract negotiations with Mr. Seifu over the next 11, 12, 13 months, but we will worry about those issues when we get to the off season, or perhaps even next off season. Right now the focus is on trying to guide the Wings to another world title, and we'll find out what type of progress we make towards that goal in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.